Excited about our topic of discussion that we'll be talking to you today about. Listen, before we get started, want to make sure if you have questions, if you have comments, um, or if you are in need of assistance, after you hear this panel discussion, please feel free to reach out to me at abceducationservices@gmail.com or 720-427-8901, and I will link you to the assistance that you need. I'll get the resources available that you might need after we have this conversation with our panel. So I want you to know that there are resources available. And if there's someone that you wanted to connect to that you heard from today or they share any information, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get that information today. So just wanted to put that out there first before we get started. As I said, I'm so excited about the topic of discussion today for our panel discussion, and it's the importance of self-care in the African American community and keys to developing healthy habits. So I wanted to, and I'm your host, Andrea C. Scott, founder and CEO of ABC Educational Services. I wanted to do just a little brief intro. You'll get the full introduction of them. If you haven't seen it, I hope you've seen it on our commercial highlighting it. If not, please go back and look because it's there. As I said, if you want to know more about those on our panel, please feel free to reach out to me. So I wanted to just first introduce our panel, and I'm going to start with Yolanda Gauthier. Did I say your last name correctly? Yolanda?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yes. I was like, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. She comes by the way of the Center for African American Health. She has her master's in social work. And what is the other credential? I just want to make sure that I highlight and present you in the right light. What is the FDC?
FDC. I have
Yes,
a family development credential.
Okay, and the family development credential. Is there anything else that you want to share about yourself that you want everyone to know before we get started?
No, I think it'll come out as we talk.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to
Well,
it.
one thing I will share, I know we have a standing joke in our office. So those who are under 30 started talking to us about being grown and being grown.
Right.
And so those of us who are aging well have decided that we are old grown. So
oh, yes.
what I will say is that I am old grown.
Yes, I think I'm right there with you.
Yes, me too.
I think I'm right there with you, right, Piggy? I think we right there. Grow for real, for real.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Yolanda. All right. Mm-hmm. And next we're going to have, I'm just going randomly, so I'm not even going in any order. Brian L. Tarver. Oh, he's coming with us. Say hello to the people, Brian.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Honored to be here.
And we are so honored to have you, Brian. There's so much that, like I said, I hope you all looked at the highlight that is for all of those who are on our panel there. I'm telling you, these powerhouses, these game changers that we have here. I'm so excited about our conversation. Brian's a native from Denver. Woot woot. I can't say woot woot because I'm not Denver native. So, go ahead, Denver native. He has, oh my gosh, so much. Currently, he's an assistant principal for DPS. What's the name of the school, Brian?
So I'm currently one of the assistant principals at Westerly Creek Elementary School in Stapleton. As a lot of people know, Stapleton is not necessarily known for a lot of leaders of color. So I feel pretty honored to be one of very few leaders of color in that area.
Yes, yes, and we're honored to have you be there, to represent not only, I try not to get mushy, but I'm so thankful, for your representation as a person of color, but also as, as a Black man. Can I say we're so thankful, and a positive Black man, that's there to pour into our children, to help guide and direct them and set the example, to be that example, of the leadership of what they should, aspire to be. So he also is associate minister at King Baptist. How long you been at King? Brian?
Since 2006. I grew up as a church, Mother Church of the Rockies under Reverend Wendell T. Liggins before his passing.
Yes.
And then Marvin Davis. And then I made my journey over to King Baptist Church, chasing after what God's purpose was for me, and still trying to pursue what he has for me to this day. I don't always understand it, but I'm trusting and I'm walking by faith, and I'm just trying to go where he leads. So,
well, thank God for you. I'm just here, like I said, I know this might, hopefully it doesn't feel awkward for those who are on that panel, but I want to cheerlead you today for all the amazing accomplishments, so everyone can be aware of the insight and the expertise, where you're coming from. So Brian carries a Bachelor of Science, a BS in Business Management, and he earned his Master's Education degree in Educational Policy with an emphasis in school leadership. Wow. Okay. I see you. So I'm thankful. Thank you, Brian. I'm trying to cut myself off because I could just talk about just the amazing things that you all are doing in the community by itself. So thank you so much for being a part of our panel. Monica Badgett. Did I say your name correctly?
That's correct. Badgett is the last name. That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Got
Yes,
it.
ma'am. Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining our panel this evening, this afternoon, whatever time you may be viewing this.
All of that.
24/7 around the clock, all of that. Oh, Monica,
absolutely.
I look forward to hearing your insight. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, these game changers that we have here in the house, I just wanted to take a minute just to acknowledge you. Now tell me if I missed something, okay? And I'll come back with you. So she has her BA in psychology, social psychology research from Wilberforce University, which I know a little bit about Wilberforce. Okay.
Well, all right. 1856 Suo Marte. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
and holds a master's in organizational leadership with an emphasis in strategic innovation and change management at CSU Global Campus. So you're also a native from Colorado. All right, Colorado native.
I am. Born and raised. Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what you're currently doing. I don't want to feel like I'm reading off a paper.
No, there's so much. I'm gonna narrow it down.
Yes,
I've currently I've worked with the city and county of Denver now for 16 years, but I've worked with, oh my gosh, at-risk populations who are my favorite populations to deal with. I also work a lot with babies from anywhere from the little sugars to college graduates to adults. Really trying to even working with nonprofit organizations and helping them to kind of strategically figure out what they're going to do, what goals are they meeting, how are they meeting those goals, what populations of people they're dealing with, and kind of helping them to come up with strategies to kind of counteract that stuff. But at the same time, um, still having those conversations with professional groups about how do you stay healthy? Where's your
Good.
mindset? And really talking to
Good.
organizations about their psychology of their organizations, because every organization has a behavior, and that behavior sometimes resonates and then begins to kind of attack or attach itself to the people who are part of it. So yeah, all of that. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that ain't on the paper, but it's too much. We ain't got that much time.
Ooh, that's all.
It's too
That's
much.
all right, because it's already highlighted. So they've hopefully they've looked at watched the highlight if you haven't already, that talks about these amazing individuals that's on our panel. Wow, this is good stuff. This is good stuff right here. Who else do we have next? Prophetess Kaya Scott. See if she's still on. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Hey.
Hello, Prophetess Nakaya Scott. I wanted to introduce her, which to be professional. This is my daughter, proud mama. This is Prophetess Nakaya Scott, where she's coming today in the area of industry for neuropsychology. So you and Monica have a lot to y'all can talk about after this panel discussion is over. Most definitely. Kaya, did you want to share anything with everyone today as it relates to what you want to talk about, what you want to enhance, anything that's on your heart you'd like to share before we start our panel today?
Basically, I want to discuss a lot of things in regards to ministry and psychology. I think a lot of people of God miss the significance in being mentally healthy and then waiting on God to heal you or speak to you as well. I think both go hand in hand. As important as it is to pray and to seek God and to receive healing from Him, it's also important to use the benefits that He's put here on this earth for us, which is mental health, which is therapy, which is neuropsychology, all of the above. So I definitely want to let everybody know that it's okay to be saved and love God and be holy and sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, and still get the help that you need, regardless of where it's coming from.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. You better represent. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm trying not to see. I told y'all I'm so ready for this conversation. That's so important to know, y'all. Especially as Christians, as believers, we need to know God sends help and deliverance. He is the deliverer. He is the healer, but He sends us help. He sends us resources through people. That's the wisdom, y'all. That's the wisdom of God. But I'll let those who are in that area of expertise talk about those areas in which they have that insight. Woo! All right, let's go. Okay, Pinky. Woo! We have our nurse. We got our nurse going on. Over 35 years of nursing experience, and has worked in various fields of nursing during her tenure. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done throughout this 35 years? Pinky, we're so glad to have you. You know, we always got to have a nurse on call. Right before we do anything, I got a nurse on call in the back.
Well, I've 35 years, I can't really go through everything. I probably done forgot about more positions than I can remember. But I love caring for people. And I love our African American people, I love to educate and help them through the journey of, if they are healthy, to maintain their healthy, if they do become ill, to get the best and proper care that they need. Because as a person that's been in this business for 35 years, it is a disadvantage. We do have a disadvantage, and a lot of it is knowledge, a lot of it is lack of trust in the medical field, because the medical field hasn't really been good to African Americans, and I have witnessed it, and I take great pride in taking care of everyone of color. I don't discriminate, but I got to be honest, I really try to teach my people how to stay healthy and what they need to do.
So I'm gonna piggyback on you, Pinky. We're just gonna dive on in. Is that all right, you guys?
That's
I'm telling you, because we're ready. Y'all ready to go. So piggybacking on what you were saying, and feel free to chime in, as you have a thought on this, which this is one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today, our areas of discussion on that educating those in our community. So how, and I know this it's a loaded question, but just brainstorming, like, how can we better educate? Like, what can we do? How can we better educate those that we need to know in our community? Because we have those in our community, which that's another question. I'm trying not to go ahead of myself, try to take one piece at a time, but we do know that there are those areas of those who may not have that access. How can we get that information out? How can we get that information out to educate, to know that they can understand, like, you having conversations, and I'm just gonna keep it real, like self-care, like, what you talking about? What's that? When they worried about self-care, I'm worried about the next meal. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you talking about self-care, what is that? So how can we educate them so they can see, this is in our African American community, like, how can we educate them to see the importance that self-care plays in the role of their lives and of the family? How can we get to them? Any thoughts or ideas about that?
I don't mind contributing to that part of the question.
Yes,
I think the hardest thing is to understand that as a people, right now in this current state of affairs, we are in a constant state of trauma. And because when you're in a constant state of trauma, you're in survival mode. So to be able to do it, you have to literally stop the pattern and to reintroduce something in the midst.
right.
But what COVID taught us is nothing more other than two things, other than God is omnipotent, God is omnipresent, and man can't do nothing for you other than sometimes exist in that space.
Right.
But what I've seen is that because now the isolation is so real, the trauma is so real. We had a collective trauma as a people, but now we have individual traumas that are being reenacted in households all over our city, all over our country, all over our nation. So to be able to tell people you deserve rest, we have a God that rested.
Right.
So how much more are you as his creation tell me you can't rest? We still have scripture that still says, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. How can you even start loving somebody else when you don't even know who you are?
right.
And it's not even the you in the terms of human, as I think about secular humanism, not like, well, myself and I'm the only point of contact. It's who are you in him in order for you to learn to love that and then be able to see that in someone else and be able to love them wholly.
Right.
So it's the dynamic of being able to see that, first of all, we're deserving of care.
That's
that we are deserving of care, and that it's not selfish. We have historical context within our own families where we've seen people who have worked themselves to death physically, mentally, spiritually. Well, so-and-so served in church for 40 years, but she never smiled a day.
Right.
She sat on that doorpost. She was the deaconess from back west. She's been sitting at that post for 35 years, and she's never said, it is a joy for me to be here. Because no one showed her that she had permission to say, I need a rest, and be able to have somebody tag you in and be sensitive enough to see that you need a rest and say, I'm gonna relieve you. And that's where the sensitivity comes in. We don't have enough spiritual sensitivity to know when to say when and when to be able to come in and give someone relief. And I think that all of that is kind of wrapped up in how all of that looks to us, but also how we interpret it and how we internalize it, and then how we act it out in our homes and with each other.
Wow. Whoa. That's amazing.
And I also think that we have to allow people to understand the difference between religiosity and spirituality,
Oh,
because they
say
are
it again.
very, very, very different. And with that, we have to
Mm,
understand that not all African American or Black people are Christian. And we have to be open
mhm,
when somebody says, I am not Christian, and not feel like we need to condemn them, because for them, their self-care comes someplace else. So I am an Ifa priestess of Oshun. That I grew up in a Christian household. But one of the things I can remember when I was very young, one of our ministers said, you must go where you are spiritually fed.
mhm,
And I found myself
mhm.
sitting in Christian churches thinking, oh, that sure was some good music,
Mhm,
and tuning out
That
mhm,
part.
on
Everything else.
for the
mhm.
minister. I counted how many times they took up collection when I thought, okay, I got $110. And this would have been when I was in college. I got $110. Now, do you need it in $1 bills, or do you want it all at one time?
Mhm,
Because I'm being real.
Mhm.
And so with that, it doesn't mean that I think that Christianity is bad or that I hate Christianity. I have parents, I have a mom, I have her caregiver, I have siblings who all practice Christianity. And it has been really interesting that if I was my son talking about practicing Ifa,
Mhm.
uh, how my mother would just be like, you know what, baby, that is so good. Look at you. You are reaching way back to Africa to help us live. But it's me, and my mother is like, what happened to you? What's wrong with you? And I
Mhm.
have to stand in that and say, Mom, we find God everywhere.
Mm.
God doesn't just show up on Sunday morning at the XYZ Baptist Church. God is everywhere all day, every day. And so we have to be able to appreciate, accept, and just love the beauty of what that brings to us, and allows us to step outside of the self that we have created based on what we think we are supposed to be. So we're talking about health and how do we look at our health. A part of it also is to know that when you are working with your physician, you're working with your mental health therapist, they can't know more about how you live in your body than you do. It is a partnership. And sometimes when we have difficulty with people saying, but that's the doctor, that's the doctor. I said, I respect the fact that they went to school. I respect the fact that they learned things that I didn't learn. But remember, they say medicine is a practice.
Right,
And
exactly.
so I get to participate in that practice. I get to say, yes, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm not going to do this. I get to say, I have hesitancy around whatever it is you want to have me take. I get
mhm.
to say, let me rethink this. Is there a
Mhm.
homeopathic remedy
Approach.
or
Right.
something that I can take for this headache?
Mhm.
Just whatever it is being able to look at that and making sure that your healthcare provider knows when you walk in that office, because it's your insurance paying them. So, I mean, we wouldn't walk in and somebody says, um, oh, you want to buy a new car? Well, the only one you can buy is this hoopty sitting right over here in the corner, because that's the only one we let for your people to buy. We're going to be upset about that, and we're going to say no, that I want this other one over here. So we have to be able to say, I am an equal partner in this. We each come from a background of expertise, but that also means that we have to be on top of what's going on with us medically and be open to our mental well-being and the interventions that we can gain from others. So I think it was Kaya that said, um, we can't just say, I'm gonna sit over here and wait with my Bible and wait for Jesus to come make me mentally sound. Jesus probably wants you to open the Bible, not just hold it. And yes, there is some comfort in holding. I know for us, we have an Odu, which is over 1,000 years old. We have that. And when you look at all the different religious groups, most of them have their own holy word. And so we look at all of that, and and yes, it's comforting sometimes to hold it on your heart, but you also got to open it up and read what's in it and figure out how it applies to where you are. And, I just always believe that God will always make a way for us if we are open to being able to receive. And I can't define how that looks like for everybody. I can define what it looks like to me, how it feels to me, what it smells like to me, how it resonates in my soul and my heart, and then how it exudes itself in my behavior and my authenticity with others.
Wow, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Yolanda. Did you still? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm finished.
Okay, because I see some brewing. Monica, I see your emoji. Do you have a response? I wanted to say something because I think you mentioned some things. You mentioned some things that I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wave my pen, that are so key, right? That are so key. One of the first things, and I'll try to be brief because this right here, whoo, that was powerful. So one of the first things that I heard you say about understanding the difference between spirituality and religion, right? And for me, I think you're absolutely right about that, because when it comes to our self-care and understanding our emotional health, we have to have a self-awareness, our own self-awareness and tools of what we need to become, emotionally healthy and develop those habits. But one of the things that, and I'm trying to carefully word this, but one of the differences for me, and this not, don't quote me, look, it's not from, this is for me, my take of how I absorb. For me, spirituality comes with relationship. Religion comes with, I know Monica was talking a little bit about some of that. Religion comes with those traditions, those habits that, just like that mother that's sitting there trying to help everybody 40 years, feeling like she was obligated to do that thing because religion, not her spirituality, not her God, not her Heavenly Father told her to do that. It was man who told her to try to not consider herself. So I think one of the important things is, no matter where you believe your strength draws from, you need to pull on that support system, because at the end of the day, knowledge is power. And just as Pinky was saying, we have to be educated. So we have to when we're being educated, we take the context, right? We're not looking at what is wrapped in. We look at the information and see how we can apply it. It's that this is for me. This is my opinion. I just wanted to, the host, I just want to speak on that, just to say, like, we have to make sure we know where our support system is. Because if your support system is guiding you in a ditch, you need to get a new support system. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you have positive support system, it'll send you to those things that'll help you become more healthy, that'll promote your healthiness, that'll build, what it is that you need to maintain and sustain emotional, physical, spiritual health. As I was preparing for this, and I'm done, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Monica, because I'm telling you, this was so key, Yolanda. I think that was so powerful. One of the things that I noticed as I was researching, preparing for this panel discussion, a lot of the researchers spoke on spirituality being one of the components one of the tenets that is necessary for positive emotional health, that you have to have some level of spirituality, so knowing that we're not, we can't determine what that is for you. You have to have your own self-awareness of what is necessary and works for you. But for me, the application is what makes the difference, right? What the application and evidence that is working determines, do I need to keep doing this? Or do I need to come to Pinky, to Monica, to Brian, to Yolanda, and get other resources, to Prophetess Kaya, to the neuropsychologist, and say, I need more resources because I'm not sure how to use what my spirituality is telling me. Like what the word of God speaks to you, there's application to the word, right? So it's like, okay, God, I need help on how to apply this word so I can become healthy, so I can live healthy. So I just wanted to chime in and say that. I thought that was so powerful. And I think one of the things in our African American culture that we need to know and understand, I'm telling you, it's so amazing to know. And I know you all are aware of just the communities within the communities, right? There's so many different communities within the communities in our African American culture where we look for opportunities to see those connections, and learn how to embrace, our differences, but look for where our parallels, look for where our connections are, because at the, end of the day, when we broke down, just like Monica was talking about, because when COVID hit, there was no name, there was no color, there was no religion, there was no faith on what we're facing, the trauma upon the trauma. We all needed the support, no matter what background or history, to know how can we connect to one another to help build our community. Monica, did you want to have something to say? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so passionate about that. So key.
No, that's
so
the point.
key.
That something that you said is that when you were talking about how when we are taught, and something that Yolanda said that makes so much sense is that there are multiple indigenous cultures.
Right.
The spirituality is the base of all things that make sense.
Right.
Anything else, and us in the West have got it twisted. We're in the West, I don't know what we're doing. We got it all messed up. But it's a thing that if you're taught that ditch living is your standard, you don't think there's anything to do but live in the ditch. Until somebody comes back and says, you live in a ditch. Well, no, I live in a ditch. This is nice. I like this here.
Right.
Until somebody tells you that there's another option.
Right.
And you realize that when you got to the top of the ditch, you'd be like, why y'all tell me all this greenery and trees and people? Well, you've been living in the ditch. So you don't know anything other than ditch living. And what we've done is that generationally, we've passed on ditch living, ditch thinking, ditch functioning. And that has become our dysfunction. And that's the standard at which we live our lives by. So when we hear that, no, you don't just have to hold on to a book, you have to open it. Anyone who's on this panel who is worth their salt of a training of any sort, an education of any type, did not get to the matriculation of that degree by holding on to the book.
You are absolutely right.
You didn't hold on to the book and say, oh, this social work book, I can feel it. Like, no, you're going to have to go and get a master's, and then you're going to have to go ahead and take the state test. Oh yeah, you might have to go ahead. I got to open up. No, you're going to have to open more than one book. Right. I remember, not putting Brian on the spot, but I remember when he was going through his master's program. Lord have mercy, my brother was sure enough tired. He was tired. Oh my God. I said, Brian, you all, and then when he would get stressed, I'm not gonna put your whole business out there, but just a little bit, just so the people will know. If they get hungry, go to his house, but he'll just leave you a plate on the curb. It's okay, because we got COVID still out here, these people. But Brian would cook. So Brian would get stressed out. He goes, ooh, I finally finished this test. I finally finished this paper. I'm like, Brian, who's coming to the house? Brother, that's 455 pounds of food. And I know that the stove was like, bruh, I'm tired. Like, don't want no more. I can't fry no more catfish. I don't have no more pots for greens. I can't do it. But I remember as he was stressed, he would cook. And he on Sunday, he would come home and he already had stuff simmering and things. And I remember in those moments where that was healing for him.
Right.
That was restorative for him, because as his mind was going like this,
Wow,
he had to open up the book, but he had to also open up the part of himself that gives him life, the part of him that gives him parts to restore himself, which was to be able to cook. And then the people come over and feed him, and that just made him all kind of happy. So that in itself is being able to identify that those areas, you have to figure out both of those things. What is the book? What's in it? And if you don't understand it, and all you're getting, get an understanding.
that's right.
Get an understanding. And so it's so much to be able to figure out that the standard that we have, and Ms. Yolanda, you said this so profoundly and so eloquently, that we are partners in our healthcare.
Yes.
So we have to literally almost reprogram us as Black folk to believe that we still have a voice about what happens in our health. That we still have to say, so you're telling me that you're not going to give me a test because I've requested it. So I need you to write that down in my chart that you refuse to give me a test. And I guarantee you, in less than a wheel turns on a spindle, I promise you, all of a sudden that well, your EKG has been scheduled for 20 minutes. Thank you. But we don't know that, because there's those beautiful nuggets that we hide because we don't hear them, because no one tells us. So we don't hear, oh, so you're telling me at 35. I remember real quick, I was probably I was about 32 years old. And I remember had Kaiser as health, and that was interesting. And I told them, I am an African-American woman and I need a mammogram. Nurse looked at me in my whole face, my whole little brown face, and she said, well, baby, you're not 35, so we can't give you one. I said, so you're telling me that because of my age, I am not deserving of having a test in which I am told constantly that I need to make sure that it's okay. That's what you're telling me. Well, no, we just don't, literally, we don't give tests to women who are not 35. I said, well, what about a young lady who's 20 years old and has breast cancer in her family? You're going to tell her that you're not going to give her one because she doesn't meet the age criteria? So I sat there and I looked at it and I was like, no, this has to be a different way. And I promise you, before a year went by, my insurance changed.
Wow.
And I didn't have Kaiser, and I went to another provider. And they said, absolutely, we can give it to you. We know that this is the bandwidth, but when women are concerned, we need to make sure we address that concern. Again, it's not understanding that sometimes systems are not set up to help us. We have and have always, since we've been here, since before 1619, have learned how to navigate and dismantle the system. And then when the rules change, we learn the rules, and then they change the rules while we're in the middle of the fight.
Right.
But we've got to be able, and I think that just kind of gave me a whole boost, Miss Yolanda, of literally, if I'm a partner in this, you're not going to tell me. I can't tell you how many times I said, well, I'm going to give you this prescription. I looked at it, I was like, I ain't feeling this mess.
Right.
I'm not doing that. I will, there is something at my house. I have a herb. I'm going to boil some turmeric. We're going to get some ginger root. we going to figure this out. We're going to eat some garlic. I'm not fooling with y'all. And then all of a sudden my body starts to respond and can't get rid of it. I'm gonna look what my grandmama used to do when she used to go out to the field and pulling up stuff and boiling roots and whatnot. That's the stuff that got us through generations. But we can still do both. We can, and because I love it, because Miss Yolanda reminded, we are not a monolith. So we don't have one train of thought. We're not all the same, but we all come from the same root of survival, the same root of success, the same root of sustainability. We come from those, that's where we come from. The people in whom we are living in their prayers, because their prayers availeth much. We are still living in that. We're still covered by that. So when ancestors are running through the fields of any Virginia, of any Tennessee, or crossing and running and trying to swim across the Ohio River to get to Ohio from Kentucky and not get shot, and their bodies now still lay at the bottom of the Ohio River, their prayers still cried out. Still cry out. And for every person who died, you can still hear the cries. Yes, their blood is still crying from the ground. I don't care what nobody say. And that blood still speaks. And those prayers are still answered. So every time we overcome, those prayers are being answered. Every time a baby gets healed, every time we have a baby who does not suffer from immortality, those prayers are being answered. Every time there's a Black mother who becomes a midwife, another prayer is being answered. So we have, that's, all of that is in us. But sometimes, like I said, we in the trauma so much, we don't realize what's in us. And we got, again, Miss Yolanda, we got to open the book. What's in it? And then eat of it.
Yes.
Ooh, and I'm telling you, there's so many books that let's come on, let's get real now. Anyone else want to respond? Because I'm getting excited. We got to open the book, and that book is what has the information. That book that tells you about health. We need to know about our bodies, our own bodies, right, Pinky? Like you need to know how your
But
own body operates. If you haven't read up and learned about how am I built, physiologically, how am I made? How am I created? Then we go
but
in. That's when we got to debunk that fear, because we can't go in with fear and listen to then we're gonna hear believe what anybody say. Like you said, we're gonna get that little ginger root. Or put some little things together. But if we're not aware, where's the book? We need to get educated. We need to see how we can bring that education and that wisdom and those books and resources to our community. Pinky, did
yes.
you have something that you
Well,
wanted to say?
I was just wondering, that's what at the bedside or wherever opportunity I have to talk about health. And Minister Scott, my phrase is health is wealth. You
Yes,
know, we focus on being wealthy. Everybody wants to be wealthy, but wealthy is nothing if you're not healthy. I mean,
right.
I will, being a nurse, that you get a detriment illness or fatal illness. I don't care how much money you have; it's not going to make you healthy. So that is my focus. I try to bring people to realize that the greatest gift, the greatest thing you have is your body, is your health. That's the greatest. I don't care about no Rolls Royce, Mercedes, all that. When you walk, when you're healthy, mentally, physically, spiritual, your soul, your body, you have the greatest gift of all, really. And that is where I try to educate us and we'll read, we want to find out how to be a millionaire and all this and invest in stocks and bonds, but you don't take time to take care of yourself and what you need to put into your body and what you expose your mind, environment, situations. Don't carry this body. This is God's body. I don't care whoever you call your God, but this is his. It belongs to him, and you are using it temporarily. This body will disappear. It will go back to the dust where it came from. But
Wow.
while the time you have it, you are to keep it sacred. You are supposed to put good stuff in it. You're supposed to cherish where you put it. Don't take it to different environments and share it with different people. This is a beautiful thing that God created us. We are a creation. We are his masterpiece, and we're supposed to take our body, serious.
Wow.
And
Thank you. I'm
and
sorry.
it's hard to get people to think that they're important, that this is important. Your health is so important.
Yeah, it definitely is a mind shift, both physically and emotionally, to know that we're, that's the desire. We should enjoy this life, enjoy the life, enjoy this life. Brian, I'm so thankful for you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for holding on. Brian,
I'm
would you please?
just
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
your space. But I wanted to just kind of share from that perspective about the resources. The resources are there. We know that. What we have to do is we have to begin to remove the stigma and allow people to know that it's okay to ask for help
Yeah.
and that it's okay
Yes.
to not be okay. In December 2018, I lost my grandmother. My grandmother was my world. She was my rock. She was largely the reason that I am who I am today. I have both of my parents in my life. They've been married 50 years on August 1st, which is an amazing blessing.
Yes, it
But
is.
grandparents are an additional blessing in addition to your parents. And my grandmother was just that. And so I never imagined that a time would come in my life, as naive as that is to believe, I never imagined that a time was going to come where I would have to continue the rest of my life without her. And when she passed, it rocked my world. It literally took me to July to recognize I'm not okay.
Mm,
I'm not getting better.
mm,
This grief is taking over every aspect of my life, where I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't concentrate at work. I don't want to do too much of anything. And my sister had sent me a resource of a grief support group. And they just happened to be meeting that day that she sent it to me. And so I threw my clothes on and I went. And I started going every month, and just having the ability to connect with other people who were dealing with grief and be able to share my story and be able to talk about my grandmother. Because one thing about people is, when someone dies, everybody wants to be at the house, and folks go bring fried chicken and green beans and cards, plants and everything, and condolences. And as soon as the funeral is over, the visits stop, the calls stop, the cards stop coming, and you're left to deal with your grief and whatever it is that you're holding in on your own. And I recognized I wasn't okay. And there was a part of me that felt bad about not being okay. I have to be okay. I've got these people depending on me, and I have to do this for church, and I have to do this for work. So I have to be okay. And we push ourselves to get to a place to be okay. I'm reading a book, and I haven't been able to get past this chapter, and it's titled "It's Okay to Not Be Okay." And the author talks about this ideal in that when people die or when bad things happen, we have to believe that there's something on the other side of this that's going to work out for our good. It's gonna be this silver lining. Something good has got to come out of this. And so we push people through because we just want to get to that place where everything feels okay again, and we don't sit with the feelings and the emotions and all of the things that we need to in order to process to get to a place to where we actually can be okay. It was 6 months before I recognized I'm not getting better. And there were a lot of people who probably discouraged and probably frowned upon the grief support group. You don't need no grief support group. You just need to trust God and pray about it. I mean, I know that from experience because I've battled depression. I've been at the point of wanting to commit suicide and wanting to take my own life. I've been there. I know what that feels like. And I'm a man of God. I've been born and raised walking in this thing called faith and spirituality and this Christian walk since before I was born. And I got to a place where I still felt like I don't want to do this anymore. And I went to someone in the faith-based community and said, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. And what I was told was, you're a minister. You're supposed to go through, pray about it. You'll be all right. I could have left that day and came home and put the barrel of a gun to my head. I contemplated it. I thank God for being God, for keeping me when I didn't know how to keep myself, and when other people didn't take the time to just simply sit and listen. I wasn't necessarily asking for solutions. I just needed someone to listen in that moment to what I was dealing with, to be able to get it out instead of holding it in, because that's what we've been taught as Black men. You can't cry.
Yeah.
Soak it up and tough it up. Don't let nobody see you upset and sweating. You can't afford to let people. That's weak. You can't be that. You acting like a girl. You acting like a sissy, or another word that's even worse than that. And so we've been taught those toxic those toxic masculinity traits that don't benefit us as Black men, when sometimes we just need to have the resources to be able to pour out, to be able to cry out, to be able to get it out, to be able to lean on somebody in a moment of weakness and be okay with not being okay in a moment. It doesn't mean that I won't be okay eventually, but right now I'm not okay. And we need to know that it's okay to not be okay. I did my grief support group, and I got to a place around the 1 year mark of my grandmother's death anniversary. And I was finally able to say, okay, you know what? I miss her, but I'm okay. I think I got it. I think I'm gonna be all right. June 3rd, 2020, my son gets ripped from me tragically. And a year later, I still can't say that I'm okay.
That's okay.
But I've put I knew from after losing my grandmother what resources I needed to put in place immediately to work towards being okay. So I have my therapist, my mental health counselor through Kaiser.
Awesome.
Thank God, she's amazing. And she is a woman of God, which helps.
Yeah.
I also
Awesome.
have a spiritual counselor that's also covering me. And then I also have my grief support group. So
Woo!
I'm doing everything that I can to keep moving forward. But historically, we've been taught as people, you don't be telling nobody you ain't okay. You gonna have them folk thinking you crazy. What you mean you hearing voices and stuff, don't be telling nobody, you better trust God and pray about it. And that hasn't served us well. And so a lot of us are also carrying a lot of generational hurt and a lot of generational mess because what we've been taught by people who love us and people who are in our family is you can't talk about that. You don't be telling nobody that. They gonna come and take you from, they gonna put you and commit you in an institution. They gonna be trying to, and we just simply want to get better.
Right.
We just simply want to work towards our healing process. And so I'm a firm believer that, yeah, I have faith, but faith without works is dead.
Being
So
alone.
I believe
Yes.
I also have to take steps to do the things to work within my faith so that I can get better, so that I can get healed, so that I can get delivered. I won't pick up all the time, but losing my son the way that I,
No, please,
be honest,
please share.
put me in a place spiritually that showed me that I've been more connected to that physical church building than I have been to him.
Yes.
So I'm
Right.
regrouping and revamping myself spiritually to tap more into him.
Yes.
Because I told God when it happened, I said, God, if you don't bring me through this, I won't make it.
That's
So
facts.
you're going to have to show me what I need to do to get through this. I have no choice. Faith is a choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I choose to throw in the towel, but I choose to believe. It's a choice. I've been running this long, so I refuse to throw in the towel now. So God, you said that all things work together for the good of them that love you. So I'm trusting and believing, even though I don't see it, and I may not want to feel it right now, but I'm trusting that you are going to allow this somehow to work out for not just my good, but for his baby's good, for his mama's good, for his siblings' good, for all of us who lost them and are hurting, for all of our good. And I don't know what that good looks like, but I'm going to trust and believe that you have the answers, and I'm going to do my part so that you can do your part. You can't do it all by yourself. I have to do my part too. So the resources are in place. We have to take away the stigma that allows people to tap into the resources that are there. It's just like when people need food and resources. A lot of times people don't want to ask because there's an embarrassment that comes with
Yes.
they driving around in that car, but they need food. But you don't know my life.
Yes.
You don't know my struggle. You don't know my story. I know right now people say, well, Brian's always dressed up in all them fancy suits and stuff. Oh, he's an assistant principal. So how is it that he doesn't have the, well, you don't know my life outside of this. People don't know the many nights I've come home and I've cried myself to sleep at night. People don't know the times when I've had to hold and take a deep breath in before I walk into that school on a Monday morning and hold my breath throughout the day until I can get back to my car and fall apart again. Right? That's what people are dealing with in this season and time. And we haven't normalized it where people are okay with not being okay and where they can actually go to their employer or go to their pastor or go to their deacon or go to their mom or their dad or go to a cousin or go to their best friend and say, I'm not okay and I don't know what to do. Because part of the reason is people don't want to take the time to listen because everybody's caught up in their own individual stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm a person that, in spite of what it is that I'm going through, I still try to make time to be there for other people who are going through, because it's not just about me, but what is it that I have to offer and what it is that I've been going through that can also help you in this season. I thank God for simply being God, because I have literally had people reach out to me through Facebook when I post my moments of transparency saying,
Yes.
you just don't know how much what you posted helped me. You just don't know how much that made me realize that I need to also seek counseling too. And that was another prayer, is that God, if any good can come out of this from losing my son, then I pray it be so. If my thorn that I feel right now can be a blessing to help somebody else, then I pray it be so. And God is doing just that. So the area of focus where now a lot of my energy has shifted is in grief and healing. Because one thing about it is that as people, we don't take the time to grieve like we need to.
Yes.
We do all the funeral and all that stuff, and then we just keep it moving. Meanwhile, we still grieving mama who passed away 7 years ago.
Yes.
Because we didn't need counseling, because we didn't go see a therapist, because we didn't talk to nobody about it. And I'm more transparent than probably most, so I have to talk about it. I don't have a choice. That's what God has given me the mandate to do. And so I just want people, if nobody else takes away anything else that I have to say on this panel, I want you to know that it's okay to not be okay. Take the time to not be okay, to grapple with whatever it is that you're grappling with, but also reach out to people who've been where it is that you're at, who know firsthand what it is that you feel, what it is that you're thinking, those private thoughts that nobody else can see and nobody else can hear, the things that, the actions and the things that come out of your frustration. When you're so angry that you're ready to just tear something up, when you're ready to snap on people, there are resources out there and there are people who do understand, and I am one of them. So if you just need somebody to talk to, you just need somebody to reach out to, I'll cry with you. I will be there with you. I will go the whole distance of what it is that you're dealing with you, just so you know it's okay to not be okay and that it's okay to ask for help.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Thank you.
The power behind that, Brian, I think is so much to unpack. So much. Because there was a study that came out last week about delayed grief during COVID. But what some people don't understand is that you take compounded trauma with compounded grief, you create a perfect storm for someone to have their mental capacity literally gets deteriorated in real time. Between February and actually January of last year to February, I lost 7 people. My father in January, I got COVID in March. I lost 3 of my line sisters, a good girlfriend of mine and another sorority sister within months of each other. And there are times where the question is, how are you? And as Brian said, sometimes you just don't know. I don't know. And not even being funny. Oh, you know, I don't know. I don't know. And to be honest and have that level of transparency to say, I don't know how I am, but I know that I'm taking it moment by moment, minute by minute, day by day. And every day that you gather another ounce of strength, the next day that you gather another layer, it's like, whew, I made it. Whew, I made it to 10 o'clock. Whew, I made it to the day. And that thing gets rehearsed. And Brian, you said the same thing, that it sits in our DNA. That stuff. And there's a miseducation that has been done to us in regards to who God is, what the spirit is, what it ain't. And then making us believe it's one thing. And then you find out when trauma hits, well, that's not even what that is. And then you find out the manifestation of God came completely in the adverse of how you've been taught in terms of what the box looks like. And I think that the courage as a Black man to say, I'm not okay, and to have a space to say, I'm not okay, but then to be reaffirmed that says that your manhood is not compromised because you're not okay. If anything, it's actually elevated because your manhood is not boxed into what you do. It's literally elevated and freed into how you respond. So it's not responding in a way that pretends like it didn't exist, but it's literally saying, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed. But I know that in that disappointment, in that anger, and that rage, I don't have to stay there. And I remember when you lost your grandmama. That thing hurt me. I remember how that wrecked you. And there was, and even when you lost your baby, that thing resonated with me in such a very different way, because another girlfriend of mine lost her son the same way, and his name was also Jovan. Within weeks of each other. That thing hit me twice. And so when she says, I miss him more, and I tell her it's okay. And you don't even have to pretend like you don't miss him. You don't even have to pretend like it don't hurt. And that don't mean that you don't love God. That's not what that means. But that means that it gives God space to come in and heal, because if we don't, my pastor said this, and this makes so much sense. He said, when you come to God and you tell him what to, he's like, you're bringing your representative. I don't even know you. You're not even being transparent enough for me to even heal the places, because you're not even telling me that you hurt. And there's a saying that says, when you continue to act like everything is okay, people will continue to beat you and think you like it.
Yes, come on.
And so I'm so excited. And I tell you this often. And there are times where I'm just like, B, you okay? You need something? Do I need to do a drive-by? Do I need to drive by, hug your neck? Like I can do it real quick. Like shoot. What we did? You need something? You need a cake? Like I know you can make one, but you need what you need? You need a cobbler? Like whatever that happens to be. But it doesn't always have to be big stuff. But I think that we haven't given enough space, especially with Black men, to say your brokenness does not mean that your manhood is broken.
Mm.
But we are raising broken boys and broken girls to believe that their opinions only matter in 280 characters.
And we force them to put a mask on.
And we force them to put a mask on, and we don't tell them, you know what, baby, I know you hurt. No, I'm good. I said, you a lie. You better, because what's happening is that when we don't find out the places that we hurt, it starts to leak. It starts to leak in our ability to be able to concentrate. The physiology in our bodies begins to change. Miss Pinky knows this for real. People's blood pressure and their physiology begins to shift. You can begin to, when I had COVID, I lost all of my hair. I had locks, all my hair. I was watching I would do this and I was like, oh, this is what we do. We haven't, all the hair. I didn't even realize then that I didn't even get a chance to grieve that. Mm. But there's a thing that is understand. People think that's very minimal because it's hair. But my hairdresser said something to me, and she's so amazing. She said, that's all right. We're going to pray for God to restore. She said, because there was trauma in your hair. Mm. And so what she said, what we're going to do, she said, we're going to cut it off. We're going to let God heal it, and we're going to do what we can do. And she said, because you know what? She said, this is the past. We don't even need this. And when she threw it away, I realized that I didn't miss it, but I look at the pictures, and the pictures don't make me trigger, well, I miss no. Because now of course I braided my hair, but I got enough hair to braid. Hello, won't he do it?
Yes, he will.
It's minimal. But when I tell you, after COVID, to where long haulers are suffering with heart palpitations, and I don't have them, but I thought that I did. And there are still some long hauler stuff, but to still be able to say that, yes, as Miss Yolanda said, I know she had to get off, that literally to be a partner and saying, you know what other tests do you have available? Because I'm concerned about this, you know what? And I had a doctor who told me this, and he was so funny. He says, you know what? I got tests. And if you want me to give it, I'll give it to you. I said, I have a question about that. He said, you know what? We got a test for that. Go ahead. I'm going to schedule you. Go ahead. We're going to get this. And that's the first time I've ever had a doctor say that. But how many of us in the spaces can go to somebody and say, my head hurts, my heart hurts. And somebody could say, well, you just better pray about it. Well, guess what? I pray. And I pray without ceasing. But I said, but let me tell you something. Ain't nothing wrong with Jesus and a therapist. Hello? Because yes. I guarantee you that if a therapist is hearing God, in the multitude of counsel, there's safety.
Yes.
So there's still safety there. And I don't care how many people you have to surround. If I know this Miss Pinky, I said, Miss Pinky, you know, I did this and I got a question about my blood work. And this is, well, baby, did you ask them this? Did you do this? Tell them these things. And I guarantee you're going to get this outcome. Do you think that I'm not going to go to Miss Pinky because now I know that she is my resource? Yeah. That I'm like, Brian, this is what's going on with my baby. What do I need to do? Guess what? Tell the baby to go ahead and give me a call. I can do this and this. Andrea, I realize that I know you do this, and this, and sis, I need you to come through and do this. Can you do this? Absolutely. That's where we have to learn that we come from a people of help. Mm-hmm. For us to act like westernized ideologies and the people who practice white supremacy and claim it as their God,
My
that is
goodness.
the opposite of who it is. And there are Black folks who practice white supremacy. We can be real.
Yes. Yes. Let's
Ooh,
be real.
All of them.
Into their beliefs.
What you talking?
on.
Listen, and we'll stand. And you think Uncle Ruckus was somebody? I promise you, this thing right here.
The thing, Monica.
Are you?
But they'll go see a therapist.
Yes.
They'll go see a counselor.
Yes.
And
No.
then tell you what's wrong with you.
That's
Well,
still
don't you have? You got two therapists.
on ourselves to where we feel like all we need is Jesus and not a therapist or a counselor too.
Ooh.
And I'm
Right.
a couple more things in addition to that too.
Because it's like, well, I don't have to go to doctors. God is my healer. Well, guess what? He has given a doctor who's a cardiologist who understands that he can look at your physical heart and be able to look and say, these are the things you need to do. And then God will show you what your supernatural heart is looking like so you can go ahead and heal that. Because my bishop says I'm so
Can I
powerful.
wave
He
my
says,
hand? Can I
oh,
wave
I'm
my
sorry.
hand?
I'm so
Can I
sorry.
wave my hand? Can I just wave? I just need to wave my hand just for a minute. I just need to wave.
Yes.
I just need to wave it. Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Just need to put my hand
Oh,
down.
sorry.
Yes,
Oh my
ma'am.
God.
Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, but I think about how we literally forget. Andrea makes me laugh. I start thinking about how we will go and not understand that. My bishop said this, and so he said, if you do the practical, you won't necessarily need a miracle. So when I started doing this at a previous church that I attended for over 22 years, and people would go to the altar, they pray for help. I would stand behind them as an altar worker and I would pray, God, give them the appetite to eat well. Give them a desire for exercise. Give them the desire to drink water. Because now I got to pray for your health because you praying for God to come in and my sugar is high. You just ate, when you came into church, you had a honey bun, 2 cups of coffee, and you drank a cup and you drank a Pepsi before we came. If you don't go to the kitchen and get you some water and stop playing with me, I sit here. I used to sit and intercede.
And smoke a cigarette.
Ooh, you sound like me.
Oh my word.
I'd say, come on now.
I'm going to pray and intercede. Jesus, let them like vegetables, God. Let them love some broccoli. Let them eat the salad with no dressing. Because I need you to get an appetite for the things that you say that you want.
Okay.
Yes.
Ooh.
Said that.
This is so good. This is so good. This is so good. This is so good.
Oh,
This is
I
so
mean,
good.
I mean, I
This
deal
is
with
so
that all
good.
the time.
We have a
You know
couple
what?
more comments. I know Kaya has a meeting she has to get to.
Oh,
Her thoughts are burning. So let's hear from Prophetess Dr. Kaya
Yes.
Scott. Kaya, what's your and thank you, Brian, for your transparency. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
absolutely.
Before we end, if possible, if I can get the author, because I wanted to, whatever resources that you all give out, I want to make sure that it's available at the end of our panel discussion, which we will be having a part 2, just so you know. But we are talking about that. Kaya, did you have some input that you wanted to say? I know it's almost time for her to leave for her meeting. Just any input that you'd like to address to us?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about things in twofold, just because I have dual roles and I want to talk about how they kind of correlate with one another. So I'm in the medical field as well as I'm a leader of a ministry. So a lot of people like to compartmentalize, okay, you're a leader of a ministry and then we work in the medical field. But to me, it helps me do my job in both regions very, very, very well. But I think on the medical side, we definitely need just a lot more godly doctors and nurses and psychologists, therapists, not to, implement our own religion on them, but to give them another definition of what it means to be in survival mode. Because as African Americans, we always go into survival mode, meaning that we just got to do whatever we have to do to survive without actually getting the help and the resources that we actually need. So my goal is to check, what does it mean for you to survive, rather than does it mean that you survive mentally and that you just push and making it every day, or are you coping or are you dealing? Because coping and dealing are two very different things to me. So as a medical personnel, it's interesting, and kind of like Monica was saying, it's interesting to see how something can impact you physically because of what's going on with you emotionally. When we don't have an answer to why is your heart going into palpitations, why is that your blood pressure is high, and you eat well, you're this and you're that, it's primarily because you're stressed out and the environment that you live in is still toxic. The relationship you're still in is toxic. So I think that it's important that a lot of people that are believers and that are godly don't just take the God route all the time. To me, that is telling God how he's going to deliver you. And that's none of our business. What our business is to be obedient and to submit to his way rather than doing our way of comfortability. I don't know who told somebody that deliverance is comfortable, but it's not. We can't get delivered the way that we want to be delivered. So why not go to a psychologist, and that's an avenue of your deliverance and of your healing? Why would we put shackles on our big God? Like, you can only heal me in church. You can only heal me through my mother. You can only heal me. And if my healing doesn't wear a robe, then it's not real. So I think that we have to change a lot of definitions of certain things. And that helps me as a medical personnel and as a leader, because see, what they don't know in the medical profession, I can bring over to them, and I can let you know, listen, your dream has nothing to do with you being a prophetess. It has nothing to do with, something's going to happen in the earth. It has everything to do with you were raped as a child. So therefore, you need to go ahead and dive into that dream, not label it like God was trying to tell you something. No, what is your emotions trying to tell you? What is the natural side trying to tell you so you can do your job spiritually? A lot of spiritual people, as far as pastors, apostles, whatever your title may be, they like to say, okay, well, we only are like 100% spiritual. But in order to be spiritual, you got to get your natural in check. I cannot, because I'm a minister of movement as well, I can't minister in dance if my mind is all messed up. I cannot minister in dance if my body is not agile to take whatever realm I'm operating in. I cannot do the spiritual if my natural is in the way. So your assignment, yes, from God, is to operate in your calling, but your earthly assignment is to make sure your vessel is prepared to operate in the spiritual realm. So I feel like a lot of believers like to separate the two. And my job is to, go ahead and connect them back, because without the natural, your spiritual is dead. You just cannot operate one without the other, in my opinion. And if, the Bible says that we are holy and acceptable, and we are the living sacrifice. So you got to sacrifice your body first as that living sacrifice in order to do what you need to do spiritually. And that kind of helps me tell my ministry, no, yes, we not gonna minister until we are blue in the face. You need to minister, you need to rest, and you need to restore at the same time. I tell them all the time that worship is an exchange, whether it's natural or spiritual. The more you pour, whatever you pour, God pours back into you. But if you never take that moment to get poured back into, you're pouring emptiness. And then who are you impacting? You're not doing anything. You're not saving anybody, because you need the saving. So how can I help you get delivered as a minister and as a prophetess if I need deliverance myself? There's too many people with dirty hands naturally that are out here trying to touch people spiritually, but you got to clean yourself in all ways, naturally and spiritually, before you do anything in the spirit realm. So that's one thing. And then ignoring the signs as people of God. We know when someone's not okay. We know when someone is depressed. We know when you see cuts on their arm because you self-harm, but you rather go pray for them rather than address the issue. Prayers, I tell people all the time, prayer, is always good, but prayer only has the impact of a willing vessel. If you are not willing to take the prayer hits God and it's a request at that point. I can't pray you to be delivered if you don't want to
Be delivered. Come on.
So you we gotta grow the desire to want to be delivered while everybody's praying and you don't want it. So now I would say challenge the people of God and just everybody, do you want to be healed? Because a lot of people get comfortable in their trauma where they're so used to being sad because they think it gets them the love that they need. They think it gets them the attention because y'all not paying attention to me when I'm just dancing around. So maybe if I cut myself a couple of times, you'll actually pay attention to me. Some people like staying in their trauma. So it's a question of, do you want to be free? Do you want to be healed? Because if something that I really want, I'm going to go get, no matter what the cost is. So if I really want it, it doesn't matter what bow it comes in, as long as I'm being obedient to God. So I think that's one thing. And then just the last thing is uncovering the rug, kind of what Brian was talking about, is there's so many households, they're famous saying what happens in this house stays in this house. And that mind control, back when you were younger, it implements a mindset of secret keeping and of suppression and of oppression of whatever it is that you go through. So we have to start opposing that saying and that brainwash of what happens in this house stays in this house. And it's painted in a familial type environment where it's like, no, because we're family, you can't tell anybody. Because we love each other, we're going to keep it inside. But at the same time, if this is truly family, if this is truly a love language that we're trying to speak to one another, why wouldn't you encourage me to go speak to someone about what's going on in this house? Because it's not okay. And like Brian said as well, we got to know what it means to not be okay. Because we're teaching a lot of children that things are okay when they're really not. So they don't even know when they're okay and when they're not okay. Because if I let you know your uncle touching you means that it's okay because I bypass it, then you're not going to know that that's something that needs to be discussed with someone else. So re-admitting the meaning behind what is not okay and what is okay, and not sweeping under the rug because that's my brother or that's your cousin. I don't want people looking down on this family. The shackles of the shame thing has to come off, because how shameful do you look raising up generations of people in bondage, whether if you talk to somebody and got the bondage off of the generational curses. So I think people think generational curses and the breaking of those is rocket science, and it's really not. It doesn't take all that rohanda basha. It takes being honest about what's going on in your family, and then the generational curse stopping with you. You have to make a decision that it's going to stop here. So me and my children, we are going to talk about this. I'm going to let you know that this is not okay. And if there's an issue, you can come to me without fearing not being believed. That's another issue too. We got to believe what people are saying, rather than taking it like, oh, you'll be all right, just go pray and you'll make it through. Okay, but while you're tending to my spirit, who's tending to my heart and my heartache? While you're praying for me, are you comforting me? The Bible says that we are to take up each other's burdens and then take them to the altar. So if we skipping steps and taking them to the altar and no conversation is happening, I don't even know what I'm laying at the altar. That's our job as people of God, is to take each other's burdens, but I have no idea what they are if we don't talk about it. So I think the open communication and the ending of the stifling of what it means to survive. Because as Black people, we're trying to survive all the time. We're trying to survive. And that means survival mode is I'm alone in this and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it through it. I'm not going to talk to nobody about it. I'm just going to make it through. But we have to end the process of, I'm just going to make it through this, rather than, no, you're going to push through and tell this mountain to move. And how you do that is you get the help that you need. So being a leader and then being in the medical field, especially in the psychological realm, has helped me a lot with understanding what's going on with them beyond the spirit realm, because I can sense when something's off with your spirit, but the why is what's important to me as well. Not just the what something's wrong with you, but why is it wrong? Why do you act the way that you act? Because that makes me a better leader, where I can tend to them in every way, to where now you're a beast in a spirit mode, because you know what's going on with you naturally and spiritually, and you understand the correlation of the both of them.
Whoa. Okay now.
That's good. That's good.
Wow. That's Brian, did you want to chime in? Yes, sir.
No,
Please.
I mean,
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Kaya. Wow.
yeah. I mean, and I think so
Yeah.
much of what she said is important. I recognize that a lot of people have wanted me to be okay because it benefits them.
Right.
And so we push people to be okay because we want them to be better to continue doing what it is that we need them to do for us. And so even in part of my self-care, one of the
Ooh.
wonderful things I have learned is the gift of being able to say no.
Yes.
And
No,
I'm not
I would say no, but yes. Yes, say no.
But I also had to kind of become
Yes.
a little bit more discerning.
Yes.
And that's a benefit of tapping into God and not man in that building, because then he will show you the things that, yes, I know this. He was like, nah, you not gonna not do this. You go push through and do this because you need this as well. I mean, just that deliverance isn't comfortable. That's all I needed to hear tonight.
Oh.
That's all I needed to hear from this whole group tonight. I needed to hear that. It isn't comfortable.
Good.
Yes.
But that's
yes.
why God would not let me say no. But there are other things that clear and distinctly, no. With work, you think you can? No, I can't. Even certain things with church right now. Hey, can you? No. Because it's not going to do me any good to try to get up and sing to God's people knowing that right now I'm not even a place where I can fully minister what it is that in here I do believe, but my flesh is saying, nah, bruh, you ain't there yet. Heal.
And it's okay and Kaya, something you said, and Brian, that's spot on. It's something you said, Kaya, there was so much you said. I was just sitting here like, oh my God, Lord help. Because understanding how to pivot is huge, because we can sit in a place of brokenness in a pew because you're there, and the people aren't discerning enough to know that you are on the edge of about to break down, because all they've told you, well, get on up. Look here, Jesus, me and you need to have a talk in the pew. Like, look here, Father, you already know my mind is feeling real different right now. But you know all things. I'm gonna need you to help me through this.
Yes.
And being able to identify that even though your physical body can be in a place, you can be completely completely not present. But it looks good. The aesthetic looks good. And I know because I've done that. Why it looks good. It looks good in a pew with a title that somebody gave you, or putting you in a position in a ministry area that you have said, no. But the people I see, but I can hear too, and no. To where when you have to pivot and you do those things, people in their pseudo spirituality want to label it as rebellion. When literally, if God says, I just need you to be still. I don't need you striving with nothing. I don't need you doing nothing. I just need you to be still. I need you to be Mary right now. I don't need you to be Martha. I don't want you doing nothing. I need you to sit. And when people say, well, God told me to sit, well, that's not what I heard. If God says that, he makes that the majority. I'm not going to be disobedient because my obedience makes you uncomfortable. I can't. Because at the end of the day, Kaya, you said it's when you're in that space and people are constantly fighting, that trauma is living in them. And it speaks to them sometimes louder than someone who comes into the room, because there have been babies who have had 17, 15, 20, 30 counselors. Not one has come in with a spiritual idea and come in and rebuke. No, baby, talk. Why are you hurting? I remember I was on a psych ward of Children's Hospital once, and I told a nurse, I was like, these babies are hurt because an adult made a decision. And she looked at me, she said, I didn't even think about that. I said, every baby is hurt here because an adult A broken adult hurt this baby and didn't do their work. And that's why these babies are sitting here 8 and 9 years old, trying to cut themselves and kill themselves at 8 because that spirit was transferred to them and they don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
Because a broken adult didn't make the decision to say, I'm broken and I can't.
Yeah.
I need. And so now you have these babies carrying all of this stuff here. They carry it here. Or you have babies who walk around in tents. And I remember as a little boy, I used to walk down the hall and I would blow kisses at him every day. He said, you blow kisses at me every day? I said, yes. He said, no one's ever done that for me before. So what he would do, I would blow it to him because you couldn't touch the kids. I would blow it, he'd catch it. He'd take it, he'd blow it at me, and I'd catch it and I'd hold it to my heart. And every day I would come, he was looking for it. I said, you ready? He said, I'm ready. Blow the kisses, I catch it. He'd blow one to me and I catch it. And so when he would see it, he would look at me and he said, you don't know what that did for me. I never touched him, but my heart believes that he saw God in me. To know that I loved him and didn't know him. I didn't have to know that you were having a breakdown. I didn't have to know that you didn't take your meds today. I didn't have to know that you didn't go to activity day. I didn't care that you're probably going to go into a long-term facility. All I know is that in that moment, you were important enough for me to blow the kisses, and I would pray and blow it to him and he'd catch it and he'd hold it to his heart. And I was like, God, if that's supernaturally, you can do anything with anything. That thing can transform. But when we sit in a place of brokenness and are forced to do something, that too is abuse. And we don't even talk about church abuse.
We're going to talk about it on our part 2. We're going to address a little bit on the surface. We're going to address that, a little bit on the surface. And please know, for all of you, who are watching, who are listening, please know that the purpose of this panel discussion is for you to embrace self-care. We're not here to banish. We're not here to bash anyone's ethics, thoughts, ideals, or behaviors, or what you have in place. This is all about those being set free, being empowered to seek self-care and emotional health, to know that you deserve it, that you matter, that you are important. So I just had to put that disclaimer out for those of you who are listening and those of you who are watching, to know this is what the purpose is of this conversation. And I'm hoping that this conversation is hitting some areas, that is challenging some areas, so then you too can go and reflect, do that self-reflection on your own to see those places. Just as Kaya was talking about and Brian was saying, how that deliverance, it may not be, and it's not a skip through the tulips, but it's starting. It's the getting started. Like, where do I need to start? So I'm hoping that this conversation is triggering some things in your mind, your heart, and your emotions to challenge you to have those self-checks and those self-reflections. Any last words? Anyone want to say before we end this part 1? Anyone have any last words you'd like to say?
I was just going to say, again, just as I said before, if there are people that are out there that are dealing with loss and just need some different resources, just need someone to talk to. Grieving is easier when you grieve with someone, or you grieve with other people together. Long after other people forget, you're still in that place and you still need to talk, you still need to vent, you still need to express things that are going on. And so, as always, I offer myself as a resource and as just someone who cares and is concerned and is in that same position. And so, Sister Andrea, Scott has my information, and if there is someone who just feels led to reach out, just need someone to pray with, I can use that as well. I'm here for that. The book that I had referenced earlier,
yes,
That You're Not Okay. Megan Devine is the author, and I have to do it in segments because it's a lot to process, and so you just have to do it in bite-sized chunks. And I would say the other book that I had got is from a good friend of mine, Sister Michelle Alexander.
Yes.
And it's her grief journey from when she lost her father. She lost her mother, I believe, a year ago today. And so I know today is a heavy day for her as well. And for so many other people that I know. I've got a ton of books. I brought all my books. I won't give them all the titles today because you said there's going to be a part two. And so.
Yes, yes. And I'm excited about this part two.
But I'm grateful to be with Sister Pinky and my good friend and Sister Monica. And then, of course, to you, Sister Andrea. I'm grateful to you. You have prayed me to the floor at times and in moments when you saw that my struggle was such. And so just thank you for being a willing vessel to provide this space for us to see.
Oh, I love my pleasure. See, don't make me cry while we doing this. I thank God. I thank God for you, Brian. I thank God for his people. Most definitely. See, you got me blushing now. God he's so good. And I'm so thankful for just having this platform for freedom. And I know we talked about it before. I just wanted to have you all come on in on just some of our conversations, say, be your authentic self, so I'm so thankful that all of you, you just were your yourself. And with that, you embrace all of who you are, which includes, who we serve. He is the denominator, the numerator. He's the center. So we can't exit him out of the conversation. And I'm so thankful to you all for just embracing who you are and who he's making you to be in Christ, and and boldly speaking on it. Like, come on, I'm so excited. Did anyone have any other comments? I know Yolanda, she sent me something that she wanted me to share before we end this part one, and talk about what our next segment. We're going to continue this conversation. Monica, Pinky, did you have any last words that you wanted to share with us?
Well, I'll just offer, you have my information. Anyone that goes, healthcare, going to doctors, getting all kind of information that they give you. If you not in the medical field, it can be difficult to understand and it's a puzzle, and put the pieces together. It can be difficult. So I offer, if anyone wants to call me, ask me about how to do that, I will help them. I want people to be comfortable. I'm very approachable, very simple. Just love God, love people, and love what I do. So just hit me up, and I'll try to do my best to make it make sense to you.
Thank you so much. And she's the most approachable person you'll ever meet. She is. She makes it look so easy. It's like, wow, woo. So yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Monica, did you have any words you wanted to share with us before we close out? You hear me like
for the second closing, as a good old Baptist preacher would do on my third closing.
Oh my gosh.
On my third closing.
Okay.
Turn, if you would, to your Bibles.
On the recording. Y'all have this on the recording.
I just want to say the beautiful thing about healing is that we have to remember it is indeed a process. It is, sometimes we want it done all right now, today, hurt today, heal today, run tomorrow. That's how, but it does not always work like that. And so it literally is a process. And restoration is a process, but he is still able to hasten his word to perform it. And it doesn't mean that you have to look some certain way. It don't mean that you got to do A, B, and C and the 7 steps to deliverance. It's a process. It's a process. And grieving is in fact a process. There will be good days and bad days. There'll be ups and downs and roundabouts, but you need to know that your brokenness does not disqualify you.
That's so good.
From a life of having the best. It does not. It does not. So know that you are loved if you don't know you're loved. Know you are valued if nobody tells you. Know that every day that you wake up is another day that somebody on this earth somewhere needs you. So hold on. Just hold on. Just one more day before you know it, it's a week. One more week before you know it's a month. One more month before you know it's a year. And you made it. So every day, know that your end is always better. But the beginning is hard. But your pain does not disqualify you. So, I'm just thankful for this prophet. Thankful for this platform.
Wow.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Oh my gosh. Look. Can I just I have to
What does Andrea wave?
Just gotta put my hand up. Put my hand up. Oh my goodness. You guys, this has been so powerful. And I hope that it really, and I know that it will encourage all of you that listen. I hope you stay tuned for part 2, which will continue this conversation, and we'll pick up continuing about the importance of self-care in the African American community and keys to developing healthy habits. But we're going hard, y'all. Talking about how to take off that mask so you can get there, because there's some things that need to be uncovered and unveiled so you can get to that place, right? So we can get to that healthy place. So we'll continue that conversation, part 2. So I hope you all look forward to it. I wanted to, before we look, oh my gosh, Monica, this port close. Before we end, Yolanda sent me something she wanted me to share with everyone. One of her comments, she said, I leave with this. Self-care is first learning how to say no. Yes. It doesn't have to cost anything to say no with love. To run myself in the ground helps nobody. My practice of not having to look perfect and be perfect enhances my mental well-being. So that's a good way to just close that, seal this whole conversation. I think that's just, set confirmation and affirmation of everything that's been set up to this point. So we don't want to leave anything untouched. So we will see you next time for part 2, where we'll be taking that mask off, talking about how to take that mask off, how to uncover those patterns of behavior, how to uncover whatever is keeping you from getting into practicing self-care. So that's where we want you to get. We want you to be emotionally healthy and emotionally well. So until next time, we will see you soon.